Ever since the 1920s, Greece had been dealing with pressure from Italian rule. No matter how many times Greece had tried to restore its own culture, the effort would always come out fruitless because the Nazi regime and Mussolini's rule were exceptionally powerful. Greece had almost given in when America suddenly joined in the war, helped take down the Third Reich, and in 1947 enacted the Marshall Plan, giving Greece both the military and financial power necessary to overthrow the crumbling Italian rule in 1949. The assistance America provided and its overall show of power led to a large increase in Greek interest in America. Although many men were unable to legally come to America, they would stop at nothing to try. Their goal was nothing more than to make a living, settling down, have a family, and a comfortable life. This is the story of one of these men. Yep. Yes.
Hi, my name is Manias. I born in island of Rhodes in Greece. The year was September 15, 1936.
Growing up in Greece, Manolis had many siblings and many more cousins. He was raised to be a baker and a priest. He quit school early in order to spend more time at the church. His family had difficulty with money and very rarely had much to eat, so they taught themselves to make the best of whatever they had. Sometimes, though, as Manolis claims, all they would have was rats. As he neared the age of 18, the Greek army had ordered he be drafted into the service. Manolis had no intention of doing this, however, so he packed up his necessities, bid farewell to his friends and family, and decided to join the merchant marines until the draft blew over. Little did he know he would not be returning to his home country for another 30 years. However, only 3 years of that period would take place on the boat. Manolis became the ship cook, preparing meals while the crew traveled the world transporting oil and other merchandise from one nation to another. During this time, Manolis had the opportunity to learn the basics of many languages. Later on, he would become fluent in Greek, Italian, English, and Spanish. Despite paranoia, cramped spaces, subpar living conditions, violent weather, and terrible hurricanes, he came to view this as the most influential years of his life, as he was exposed to the world in a way few of us ever have the opportunity to be. He witnessed firsthand the vast differences between cultures. Pulling into port, Manolis stepped off the ship. As he did so, it never occurred to him that he would not be getting back on. The very next day, he found out that the ship would be returning to Greece. Now that he was past the age of 18, the officials would be waiting at the dock to drag him into the military. Feeling condemned, Manolis prepared to head home, until one of his crewmen saw his distress and told him that it was high time he leave the ship. Collecting his pay and things, Manolis turned from the crew, heading into America. Manolis would find himself unable to become a legal American citizen and would be forced to hide for years as an illegal alien. During this time, he found a job willing to hire any immigrant able to cook, regardless of their citizenship status, provided that they were willing to work on 2 separate locations on East 3rd Avenue. However, not all Americans were as okay with it as his boss was. In fact, the police cracked down on illegal aliens harder during this period of time than any other in American history. If an alien were to be caught now, they would be immediately deported, no questions asked. Manolis recounts the closest he ever came to being deported.
And I used to live in Astoria in Queens. So one day, on my way to work, saw 2 guys, and I was approaching them. One guy stopped me and says to me, so they asked me what nationality you are. So I says, I'm Spanish. He says, do you have any ID? I said, no. What do you need ID for? So he showed me the bench, was immigration. So now I try to make it believe I take my wallet to show him the ID. And I push the guy on one side. And the other guy tried to grab me, but with my luck come the school kids. And I run where the school kids come in with the nuns. And the guy threw the gun. I don't know if to scare me probably. And I was running over there, I pushed a couple of kids in the floor. And I went right in the subway station to pay the tokens. And I went to the other side.
Manoli hopped in a taxi and got away. After he made it to work, he planned to quit until his boss installed a bell system that would ring once if a customer needed more water, twice if they needed more napkins, and just continuously ring if the police arrived. Again, Manoli was almost caught when they showed up and demanded everyone stay perfectly still while they checked for citizenship papers. Manoli, who was conveniently located in the back at the time, had time to empty a refrigerator and hop inside. Hours later, he was found by a maitre d' who told him that the police had left hours ago. Sometime later, he was at a party when his friend introduced him to his cousin, saying they should go on a date. The very next day, the two got married.
First I met my wife Dina in Baltimore, as I said before, and do you remember what day it was? It was a Saturday in July.
Oh, God.
And now it's 50 years later, we're still together.
After the birth of his first child, Manoli quit his old job and opened his own restaurant, the Manolis. But it closed after about 2 years due to bad business, and Manoli went back to his old boss, who proposed a new job for him. Manoli had been given a new job outside of the city as the head and executive chef of the Friar Tuck Inn and Resort being built in Catskill. Before going to the new job, he took the necessary steps to attain his citizenship papers. He had finally become an American. His life soon became consumed by his work, driving nearly 2 hours every day to and from it, until his boss had built a home for his family less than a mile from the resort. But still, Manoli worked 7 days a week, leaving long hours before any of his family had woken up. When he was home, he would often go straight to sleep, leaving shockingly little time to spend with his children. Manoli says today that his only regret is not spending more time with his children while they were still young. During the 70s, the resort would play host to some very dangerous guests. Only these guests were here to stay. This was the Genovese family, one of the 5 crime families that composed the Italian mafia. Manoli himself became acquainted with Fat Tony, the head of the Genovese family. The family would do business with the Friar Tuck for years, eventually smearing it of its good name. By the start of the 21st century, the inn was barely hanging on, and in 2010, it would finally be shut down for good, left as nothing but a shell of its former glory. But it was not so much of a loss, as Manoli had kept his job for 50 years and was past the age of 70 by the time it closed. His children had grown up and had kids of their own. This time, Manoli was there to watch them grow. He taught each of his 3 children, as well as many of his grandchildren, how to cook in the Friar Tuck. He gave all of them a second home whenever they needed to come back, and loved each and every one more dearly as time passed. By the time his second daughter, Maria, had her second son, she found herself unable to support her own family. Manoli allowed them to come and live with him again until they could get back on their feet, metaphorically speaking for Maria, but literally for me, her son. And by my 3rd birthday, my family left his house, but would be back to visit every time we had the chance. Manoli Manias, my Papou, would come by to see us every Sunday and continued to do so for nearly 15 years. I wouldn't know about the adventures he had on the boat, in the city, and throughout his life until years after leaving the house. Most of these adventures would not fit into this story, however, as this was not the tale of an adventurer, but of a man who left his homeland with a dream. Even when everyone and everything tried to prevent it, he lived his American dream. The same dream countless others have tried and failed to live. The dream to raise a family of his own, and the dream to give them a better childhood than the one he had. The dream to live his life to the fullest and make every second count. And he did.